happy to be here amongst distinguished speakers in this lovely space and in this great initiative by Kathimerini to discuss a sector that accounts about 1/4 of Greece's GDP, and its growth and development is so closely intertwined with the development of the country. This topic also seems to gain more traction every year, more heated discussions, not only amongst stakeholders and investors, but between local communities. So I'm very happy that we will have an opportunity to talk with you. Let me introduce the guests. We have Andrian Messerli, President for Europe, Middle East and Africa for 4 Seasons, which means that you are overseeing hotel operations in more than 40 destinations and 20 under development in all these areas of the world. So it would be very interesting to see where you place Greece and how easy or really hard it is to do business here. And Andreas Andreadis, who is the CEO and co-managing partner of Sunny Ecos Group, which owns and operates Sunny Resorts and Ecos Resorts in Greece, but also he's the only Greek hotelier who has managed to operate abroad and specifically in Spain. And he's one of the few in the industry that also has significant experience in policy making. He was the president of the board of directors of SETE for 6 years. And he has also served as president of the board of directors of the Hellenic Hotel Federation. So welcome, gentlemen. As you have both experience doing business in Greece and in other countries, I want to ask you to begin with, why are you investing in Greece? What are the reasons beyond natural beauty, weather, and history? Is it the environment, the investment environment, is it stability? What are the reasons that you are choosing Greece? Andrian?
Well, first and foremost, I might start by saying that we are a private company. So we are not a publicly listed company, meaning that we don't have the same shareholder pressure to grow as a company than when you are publicly listed. Hence, when we go into destinations, for us, it needs to make sense from a brand perspective. And if we can bring not only our customers, but most certainly if we have the right partner, the right location. And here in Greece, for us, it just makes sense all around. Number one, we have found really a great partner here in Greece, the one that we originally developed the Astir Palace with. And once we have that partnership, it's similarly to our guests. We keep growing together and we keep developing together. And Greece, I saw yesterday on the presentation, has so many attributes to it, makes it so beautiful. And it's not just the nature, the sea, the beach. It's really the culture, the food, and all the islands that have been developed. And this gives us more opportunities. And when we look at our Greek expansion, I'm happy to say that actually tomorrow we will officially announce our next project that is going to soft open in 2025 in Mykonos. And this, yet again, is going to really set, I believe, that island apart. And I think we can bring a lot of good attributes to make this right.
So we have news. You just made news that you're opening 4 Seasons in Mykonos. Mr. Andreadis, is it an easy place to do business here? I mean, you had experience with Spain. How easy it is to start a hotel or to do a significant investment here?
Hello, first of all, thank you to Kathimerini and to this amazing place. Thank you, Ezia and Mr. Vasilakis. Really something impressive and something was beyond our imagination a few years ago. Well done. And of course, on your question, I go back to 2010, 2012, right? And just to reflect how Greece and Greek tourism was looking back then, that's not so far away, it's 12 years away, with 10 million visitors, with 10 billion income, 12, 13, 14 million visitors, Athens being burned to the ground. I mean, nobody could believe tourism could be where it is today. The product, global chains like 4 Seasons not only were totally absent, there were 1 or 2 chains operating in Greece with only in Athens. So the gastronomy was at a totally different level. The perception of tourism in the public was on a totally different level. So we need to think and recollect what happened in the last 12 years, right? Because I think in the middle where all the other industries, all the other sectors of the Greek economy went significantly down. Okay, that's a miracle. For me, it's a miracle. And this is mainly because of the people of tourism and the private companies to an extent, in some cases, I have to say during COVID, on some government actions as well, but I have to say limited. So starting from there, when we were so low and we achieved what we achieved, it's only going to go up. The question is, how much up can it go? If we leave it on autopilot, it will go up, but not as much as if we have a strategy and a proper plan. I think Greece is in the very beginning, but we need a lot of things to happen to bring Greece. So the question is, will the 20 billion become 30 by 2030 or 40, 45? This is for me the issue that today we have to contemplate.
What has been the major obstacle that you have found here doing business? I mean, compared with your wide experience from all these areas, what makes it harder to do business here and you would like to see some change?
Look, I mean, as you mentioned, we operate in many different countries. And when I look at the PwC presentation that we just saw earlier, I can confirm that some of those challenges that were highlighted, other countries have the same challenges, right? What is really encouraging to see is the vision that Greece has to address those challenges, most specifically on the infrastructure. And then other elements, and I'm going back to what actually our customers tell us of what the issue is when we develop specifically luxury tourism, is that, for example, there is no parking spots for private jets. So it is those challenges that we are working around. But what is really also very encouraging to see is the vision of the private sector with the government really working together in making it happen and addressing those challenges. I see also some of the recommendations that they put out from PwC. Again, those are recommendations that are not foreign to other countries that were listed that are having a very good or a significant income in GDP from tourism, is the staffing, right? And when I specifically look at the staffing on a seasonal location like Greece, this is a challenge, yes, but this is also an opportunity. And I want to draw maybe a parallel to what we are doing in Astir Palace. That is really for us a very big operation where every season we hire close to 900 people into the seasonal workforce. And the way that we really have found is that there is opportunities for those people when Greece is lowering its season to ship them out into other locations to gain experience and to be exposed. I was just talking to our general manager this morning. We have about 10 people that are going to Kyoto because in Japan, they start a higher season. We have seen actually 20 people that are going to Mauritius. So, and we have the ski resorts that are opening where we can actually, again, go back to this labor force that is highly qualified and give them an opportunity to work in other of our resorts when they are having their high season.
On labor force that Andrian just spoke about, do you feel that Greece having lower wages coming out of the crisis is a cheap place to get labor force? Is the investment in Greece cheaper than, let's say, in Spain?
Yeah, Eleni, before this, I would like, because the question goes around competitiveness and how Greece, for an investor, look, I'll try to be very impartial, right? Comparing, say, Greece with Spain or Portugal. Let's start with the pros. The pros of Greece is A, the beauty and still available space to develop greenfields, which is not the case for Spain, Italy, or Portugal. And when you can, due to the Barcelona protocol, you have to build 200 meters away from the beach. I talk about beach resorts now, okay? So one big thing is at all costs, Greece has to keep out of the Barcelona protocol because it has developed only 3% of the 16,000 square meters, kilometers of coastal land. It's in the very beginning, Greece. It should protect its oil. Its oil is these beautiful coastal areas. This is a big pro. The other pro is around the hospitality, the philoxenia. I was very surprised to see yesterday in the first Gallup that the Greeks don't appreciate how important it is for the guests, the foreign guests, this attribute of the Greek people, the warmth and the philoxenia. Only 3 or 4% of the Greeks see it as a big benefit, because obviously we are used to have it every day, whereas 60% talked about the beauty and the weather and the sea and so on. Believe me, this is one of the most important reasons foreigners come to Greece. Okay, so we have a very warm people with in their DNA hospitality. We just need to train them and make them more interested in this. How can this happen? You need a lot. The Prime Minister talked yesterday about the private sector, the education. The question was, what can the public do? I tell you, the public can do very little or nothing. We tried to make schools, public schools, in hospitality. It didn't work, you know, these scholars and so on. But I can give you an example of private schools that are growing a lot. For example, in our business, we work with IECACME. This year we have 400 students. We subsidize their studies. They come to work for 6 months with normal salaries. They are trained well. They go to summers, they work well with us, and they can go anywhere. Many more programs integrating private teaching with companies that give them possibilities. This is the way forward. We have to increase this. And of course, we have to open, you know, in a controlled way to bring people from abroad. Believe me, if you find me one guy to clean the dishes in the kitchen in Greece, I will put in the podium there to show it to everybody, okay? There are certain things the Greeks are not willing to do, like all over Europe, irrelevant of the cost. So in the staffing issue, I think is one of the cons is the lack of staff. We can talk about taxation cons, and we can talk about, I guess, planning laws, where we have significant cons as well. But we can talk, I guess, a little bit later.
No, since we are in the labor section, I want to ask you, compared to other countries, is it cheap? And taxation that you just mentioned, how is Greece placed in terms of the costs? That is it competitive in the wider Mediterranean region that we are competing?
For me or for Adrian? Go on, Adrian. Go.
Well, if I draw the comparison specifically to Europe, I think it is competitive. But is our industry still interesting, specifically for the younger people to join? And I think this is really where the flexion point is. And we need to become, again, more interesting for younger people to join. And I think the schooling is one aspect that can make a tremendous difference. Now, maybe 2 aspects. One aspect that the government, in my opinion, did very well is the tax relief that was given. Because not only it gives an opportunity for people to come to Greece if you have a shortage of staff, but it actually incentivizes the Greek to come back to Greece. And this has made a tremendous impact. The other element that is really important for us as a company, when we look at the workforce and when we hire the workforce, we look for attitude and we train for skill. And the one element that we have found overwhelmingly positive in Greece is the people. They have a genuine approach towards service, and they have a genuine approach and that attitude that we are looking for. And then we say the rest, we can bring them and we can help them with the people that have already grown the experience with us. Because ultimately you can have a beautiful hotel. We have great partners that build beautiful hotels for us. But the heartbeat of a hotel will always be the people that work in it. They are making the difference. They are the ones that really have the key in their hand to unlock the experience. And that in Greece has really made a tremendous difference for us in our sector.
Yeah, Look, I will give you a very specific example. Despite the fact that there have been certainly improvements, I note one very noteworthy was announced yesterday after a couple of years of talking, but never late than never. For example, tips in a month's time will not be any more taxed, and they don't have any, taxes on labor. I mean, on payroll taxes, etc. Why this is very important? Because there are apps now where you can tip with Apple Pay the staff on the spot without interfering. So it can be a US company doing the whole app, and the money is transferred immediately to the employee, to his account, without any. This is a huge step. It's up to 300 euros per month. A simple thing. Finally, the government understood it, the Prime Minister supported it, because there are many things around white and black and so on. And this gives to everyone the possibility to have 300 euros net per month on top, very easily transferred to them in front facing, obviously. Yes, but not only, people tip also kitchens and so on, or taxi or whatever, okay? So there are some simple things they can do. But let me stay on the base. Let me compare a waiter in Greece of us with a waiter in Spain, okay? In the same hotel, same kind of position, okay? In Greece, a typical salary is 1,000, 1,100 net per month. In Spain, it's about double, 2,000 to 2,200, okay? This is the average pay, okay? So one would say the cost in Spain is double. It's not double. Why? Because the payroll taxes in Spain for this range are much lower. So in the end, to the company, the cost is about 30% higher in Spain than in Greece. So one issue is the very high payroll taxes that grow enormously on this. Second, add to this in the attractiveness of Greece versus Spain, that the VAT in Spain is 10%, and in Greece, as yesterday it was explained to the Prime Minister, said no more, thank God, because it's 16.5%. If we add VAT between 13 and 24, plus the local tax, plus the environmental tax. So we have 6.5 points more on the turnover of a business. So this balances totally the cost of the payroll increase of Spain to Greece. So think of an investment where an investor looks at the two countries. If we exclude the beauty, the philoxenia, and the fact that we can build closer to the beach in Greece, in Spain they don't have a lot to build, we have a real serious issue of competitiveness. I mean, Andrea, of course, is nice, he will not tell you it's not competitive. And totally it can be competitive, but believe me, I see how much interest is for waiters in Spain, not only from Spanish, a lot of Greeks go there, a lot of Romanians, because 2,200 is a very good salary over 10 months employment, So we have to really think very carefully, because in Greece, the government is sucking the money because they cannot catch the black part of the economy, whereas in Spain, the money into the pockets of the people, which I think the Prime Minister has explained is one of his main reasons. But to see money in the pockets of the people, we have also to be efficient in taxing, right?
Okay, clear. In terms of the zoning framework, I mean, there's a lot of talk about this design that's happening now. And it feels that things kind of work opposite in this country, that there's a lot of licensing at the beginning of a new place or an island, and there's a lot of building that's allowed. And then laws are retrospectively designed. Does that happen in other places? And how do you think this new zoning framework should be in Greece?
I don't think I can judge and say if it happens in other places. But I can say when we come in as a company, and specifically our partners here in Greece, for that matter, it's AGC, is they go to the highest authorities in order to get the zoning and the licensing approved. And I think it's very important. And ultimately about the compliance, also when we operate hotels, we need to keep that clean, and having a partner that is very committed towards doing that is key when we operate. Now, when we talk zoning, and I hear a lot the term over-tourism, I do believe that there is a relationship to that, and I do understand in certain areas in Greece there is a moratorium in place in order to build or not build new hotels until a caring study is performed of what can actually...
In Mykonos, actually, there's a moratorium on hotels, so I hope you got your license already.
And absolutely, and this is exactly what I try to say. When we go into destinations with our partners, we make sure that this is all clear and clean. And when I look at the buildability that we have on our resort that we're going to open in Mykonos, it's going to be a 94-key hotel on a 63,000 square meter plot, meaning that we are just short of this 15% buildability, so there is space. And when we talk about over-tourism, tourism is our business, and we need to protect it. And when we talk about protecting it in an environment like Greece, I think that just becomes twofold more important, because the sustainability aspect of it is one, but then the social and people aspect of it is the other. And as a company, that's where we try to make a difference, because we recognize that what we do, and through our 4 Seasons for Good project, we need to protect the environment. And we believe that the environment is protected through the zoning that the countries have in place to avoid that over-tourism that could happen in certain periods of the year or on certain destinations that are just bluntly beautiful, right?
Do you think that the zoning that we have in place right now is enough, Mr. Andreadis?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm Swiss. I'm also very diplomatic.
That's a very long story, okay? I mean, look, we talk about this planning of tourism for Greece since I don't know how many decades, right? The reality is, I think, obvious, right? Despite all these efforts that are done by the government, I have to admit, this government, this Prime Minister is quite focused. The reality is that one rule fits all, which is still the way Greece has building to it out of the town environment of city zoning. You have a 20% coverage, flat, 2 floors. Wherever you bid in Greece, in Mykonos, in Chalkidiki, in Peloponnese, out of Athens, is one law. Okay? And the Council of State has repeatedly said, guys, make proper zoning per area. This is a difficult project. It's a lot. And believe me, this local planning is not going to get to this level. So if we want Greece, and that's Yadis yesterday, that's was talked about it, real strategic plan means a detailed zoning. How do the Spanish, for example, and not only the Spanish address it? They leave this to the local authorities. Here in Greece, because we don't have competent local authorities, we try to do it centrally, and that is a result. We have one rule fits all. I mean, you cannot compare, obviously, Mykonos and Santorini or a small island in the sea class with Peloponnese or mainland Greece or Epidras. It's crazy to try with one law to cover it all. It's a lot of work needed, and I think we are in the very beginning. Although I have to say, the Prime Minister impressed me yesterday. I mean, he talked about pools. I have to say this is, I have to commend him, because knowing that pools in a hotel consume only 2 to 3% of the water consumption is something very specific. Even the Spanish don't know it, and they limit the pools because, it's very politically to say, no, pools are for the rich, tourists, so limit them. So he understands the needs. It just is so big, the issue of not having done the work properly for decades, I have to say, right? That is a monstrous issue that Greece has at some point to address in order to not have one rule fits all. I don't understand why in Greece, for example, in mainland areas, you cannot build, like in Spain, 40% in specific areas higher with 3-4 floors, which makes a more compact and more nice product. It's 4 Seasons in Athens, a bad product because it has 4 floors. It's an old building. No, and if you have bungalows as well, it's an ideal way a hotel in the mainland could be developed. So I think the one, of course, in the C class, you cannot do it, right? Maybe 2 floors is too much, right? So, I mean, we have to understand that a lot of work in planning and strategy has to be done. We are in the very beginning, and the central government has to find very good outsource support. You cannot have the ministers and the people in the ministry with SET and the others designing Greece. Forget it.
So one suit doesn't fit all. That's definitely your approach. I'm happy that you're more optimistic than from yesterday's talk with the Prime Minister.
It's a beginning.
It's a beginning, at least. We have very little time. Just one last question. There's so much talk about over-tourism. We discussed that yesterday also. There was a lot of analysis. The government and the PM doesn't really accept the term over-tourism, but there have been some steps to tackle it recently. We have seen imposing taxes to hotels and fees to visitors. Do you think that's the way forward?
I think we now need to let the process take place, right? Those areas or clusters that have been identified with a potential over-tourism, I think they have now that moratorium in place. So kind of the bleeding stopped at this point in time. And as my colleague Andreas is saying, I think maybe there needs to be a third-party involvement in order to go in there and not just look at the zoning of how much and how high can we build, but how much can the destination still absorb in terms of tourism, and what infrastructure needs to be built in order to support that.
Mr.
Andreas, do you think taxing hotels and visitors is
a very big issue. I'm very happy to hear the Prime Minister put it in the right sense. Look, let's take again, I'm a very practical guy, okay? So let's take again 2 examples. Let's take Mallorca, okay? And let's take Rhodos, okay? Mallorca is an island twice the size of Rhodos and has 1/3 of the whole income of Greece. So in an island double than Rhodos, it concentrates on, believe me, if you go to Mallorca, it has an airport in Palma of 30 million, I think bigger than Athens airport or similar, right? It's similar in size, okay? If you see, and you have 2 Attikiotos going to the 2 sides, if you see the infrastructure, the quality of the infrastructure, the quality of how they handle the local authorities, the whole situation, you certainly don't feel there is over-tourism. And if it is, it's mainly in the city of Palma because of Airbnb and the issues around rental, increasing rental, which we have increased as well. So over-tourism is related directly to 3 issues. First, infrastructure, and mainly quality of infrastructure. Secondly, the very fast growth of Airbnb, particularly in Greece, from nothing to 1 million beds in a few years, which obviously presses in many ways the system, right? This is the second big way. And the third way is the cruise business, okay? If we address this with a plan, I think Greece can easily handle, many more people and many more receipts. And one comment on the receipts, because I saw before PwC, I think the bankers or the authorities collecting numbers have to sit down and discuss a little bit, because I see Spain with double the visitors of Greece, 92 billion, okay? And Greece with half the visitors, 22. I don't believe Spain has doubled the income of Greece per visitor. This, I tell you, is a different way of counting. I think Spain counts the total effect, where Greece counts only the direct effect. So when they talk about increasing or decreasing interest, I think they have to align a little bit of how we measure the numbers so we have a comparable number and we can really see if Spain is really bringing so much per visitor of the increase.
Unfortunately, our time has run up. Thank you very much for this lively discussion, and let's hope the authorities have heard what you have just said.